Welcome to This Explainer. I'm Emmanuel Kant, and today we're diving straight into my own head. I want to take you on a deeply personal journey. Honestly, it was the greatest intellectual crisis of my entire life. For centuries, philosophers were just staring out into the cosmos, arguing about the nature of reality. But I realized we can't solve the profound mysteries of knowledge by simply looking at the stars. I had to turn the whole investigation completely upside down. So let's step into my mind and unravel this mystery together.
Here was the central, agonizing mystery that was literally keeping me up at night. Can we actually know anything for certain, beyond just the raw, chaotic data our physical senses give us? Think about it. If we only ever rely on empirical knowledge, the things we can see, touch, or measure, our understanding of the universe is incredibly fragile, right? It's always subject to change. But if we do possess pure knowledge, knowledge that is absolutely independent of experience, how in the world did it get into our heads? Where does it come from? Could I ever really trust my own thoughts?
Well, to understand this revolution, we first need to visit the old regime. Section 1, my dogmatic slumber. For years back in Königsberg, I was, quite frankly, comfortably asleep in the arms of traditional metaphysics. I believed, totally unquestioningly, that human reason alone could just magically grasp eternal truths about God, the soul, and the universe. I really thought that if I just thought hard enough, my mind could unlock the secrets of reality itself. And then, bam! Everything shattered. The brilliant Scottish empiricist David Hume violently shook me awake. Hume proves something absolutely terrifying. Reason alone cannot actually prove the connection between cause and effect. We see one billiard ball hit another, sure, but we don't actually see the invisible force of causation. If Hume was right, all of natural science and metaphysics was basically just resting on habit, not certainty. I realized right then, traditional philosophy was completely broken. That brings us to Section 2, the problem of pure reason. So, I had to figure out how to rebuild the completely broken foundations of human knowledge. If metaphysics was ever going to be elevated to the rigorous status of a true science like math or physics, I needed to prove that absolute certainty was still possible. I basically had to pop the hood and investigate the actual machinery of human reason itself. To do this, let's divide all human statements into two distinct camps. On the left, we have analytic judgments. Now, these are totally certain, but they just repeat themselves, like saying, all bachelors are unmarried. It's true, obviously, but it teaches us absolutely nothing new. The definition is literally already inside the word bachelor. But on the right, we have synthetic judgments. Saying all bodies are heavy actually combines two different concepts, genuinely adding new information to our knowledge. And this right here, this is the holy grail I was desperately searching for, the synthetic a priori. If science and metaphysics are going to survive Hume's attack, I had to prove that this very specific type of knowledge actually exists. We need statements that give us brand new information about the world. That's the synthetic part, but are absolutely universally true regardless of our physical experience. That's the a priori part. It's like knowing that a triangle's internal angles will always equal 180 degrees. But how is that even possible? How can we know things about the outside world before we even experience it? Let's move to Section 3, space, time, and sensibility. Instead of analyzing the objects out there in the world, I decided, you know what? I need to turn the investigation completely inward. I had to rigorously examine the very framework of human perception itself. I needed to separate the raw input of the world from what our own mind actively brings to the table. So I contrasted our two distinct cognitive powers. Over on the left, we've got sensibility. This is the mind's passive, receptive side. Think of it like a sponge that simply absorbs sensory impressions when objects affect us. But on the right, we have understanding. Now, this is highly active and spontaneous. It's the factory floor of the intellect that takes those impressions and rigorously thinks through them using concepts. Let's zoom in on what sensibility actually produces. I call it an intuition. Now, hold on. Please don't mistake this for some mystical gut feeling. In my philosophy, an intuition is just the raw, immediate data of an object given directly to us through our senses. It is the immediate representation of an existing state of affairs. Before your brain even identifies an object as an apple, the raw red color and round shape hitting your senses, that is an intuition. And this brilliantly illustrates my Copernican shift. You see, space and time are not just empty containers floating out there in the absolute universe. No way. They are actually the pure forms of human intuition. They're the built-in, unremovable lenses of the human mind. Think about it. Just like you can't see the world without your eyes, your mind literally cannot receive any data without automatically formatting it into the framework of space and time. We bring space and time to the world, not the other way around. Which leads us to Section 4, the machinery of understanding. Now, raw data hanging out in space and time is not yet true knowledge. Once our sensibility has passively gathered the data, that chaotic rush of sensible intuitions desperately needs an active processor to make any sense of it. And then I had this sudden, profound realization. Thoughts without content are empty, and intuitions without concepts are blind. If your intellect is just spinning up concepts without any sensory data from the world, you are basically just daydreaming empty thoughts. But on the flip side, if your senses are bombarded with data without your mind actively organizing it, you are entirely blind to what you are experiencing. Real knowledge only happens when intuition and concept are permanently glued together. Let me walk you through the exact step-by-step recipe I discovered of how our mind actively constructs a coherent, unified experience out of all that scattered sensory data. First, sense provides a chaotic synopsis of raw manifold data. Second, the imagination blindly synthesizes and connects these scattered representations. And third, apperception. The mind unites this entire synthesis into a single conscious I think. It is an incredibly complex assembly line happening inside your mind every single second, without you even knowing it, constructing the very reality you perceive. But what exactly are the tools the intellect uses on this assembly line? Well, I call them the pure concepts of understanding, or simply the categories. These are the actual gears and levers of the intellect. And here's the kicker. They do not come from our physical experience. Rather, they originate purely within our understanding. They are the pre-programmed logical operations that force the chaos of the senses to conform to the rules of coherent, objective thought. So, this crucial point is mapped out right here in my table of categories. Look at the columns: quantity, quality, relation, and modality. This is literally the exact blueprint of your mind's machinery. Notice causality listed under relation. Remember my friend David Hume? He said we can't find cause and effect out there in the world. Well, he was absolutely right. We don't find it out there, we impose it from in here. The mind generates the concept of cause and effect entirely internally to make experience possible. A real game changer, right? And finally, Section 5, the limits of our knowledge. So, I had done it. I had saved science. I proved how synthetic a priori knowledge is actually possible. But this victory came at a massive cost. Having found my answers, I had to issue a profound and, quite frankly, humbling warning to all of humanity about the absolute, unbreakable boundaries of human reason. There is a sharp contrast we must accept. On the left are phenomena. These are things exactly as they appear to us, shaped and filtered by our human lenses of space, time, and the categories. We can know phenomena with absolute scientific certainty. But on the right are noumena, things as they are in themselves, without our human lenses. Because we cannot step outside our own minds, the noumena are completely and forever unknowable. Let's quickly summarize the core takeaways of this explainer. The real heart of this Copernican revolution of the mind. First, our minds do not passively reflect reality. They actively shape it. Second, the fundamental rules of nature, like space, time, and causality, are actually just the structural architecture of human cognition. And third, while we have total mastery over the world of appearances, we are forever barred from knowing the ultimate reality of things in themselves. I leave you with this final, provocative thought. If we can only ever know the world as our own human mind actively shapes and constructs it, what exactly is the universe doing when we aren't looking? Does time even tick? Does space even exist? The limits of reason are vast, but the mystery of the unknowable noumena will always remain. Thank you so much for walking through this philosophical revolution with me.